Hello, friends. I am Chevee. Welcome to my shed. How are you today? How's life in your world? How's things where you are? Everything here is fantastic. Actually, a really nice day outside. Um, so, this is episode 2004. So, we're talking about my year 2004. And as I've sat and rethought about how this little set of videos is going, I think this will be the last one that I do for a while. I think that maybe after this I'll do touch points for the years leading up to now, but there's not really significant change in my life for a lot of these years. In 2004 there was significant changes, but they were like, it wasn't like I had a year of just multiple changes like I did in previous years. 2004 was the biggest at the beginning of the year. Like I told you, at the end of 2003, was newly married, and we had gone through a rough patch, and our relationship never healed. It did not heal ever, and for the rest of the relationship, we never really healed from that. But we continued to, you know, try to have a kid because in my mind, that was the only thing that I could do to help fix the situation. There was no other way I could help. And so we were also looking for a house. The apartment that I had in Morgantown was just a tiny little efficiency, one bedroom, you know, no storage. It was a bedroom, a kitchenette, dining area, living room combo, one little tiny bathroom. That was it. And it was just full of stuff. It was full to the brim of stuff. And so in the beginning of that year, we found a house. It was very important to me. I told you I was a parts department manager. I was making $36,000, which was quite a lot of money for a 25-year-old with no college. And it was very important to me to live below my means. Very, very important. And that turned out to be one of the best decisions of my life. We found a house, a very small house, but it was intended to be our starter house. This was like a 2 to 3 year housing arrangement, and we paid $52,000 for a house that was about 720 square feet. It did have a full basement, but the full basement was damp. It was not really usable as a base. We couldn't finish it and use it as living space. It was just a storage space, basically. There was a little bathroom. There was a little toilet down there, and there was like a sink and a little. It was used as a canning room for previous residents, but it was just a tiny little house. It had a tiny little garage that was I wouldn't. It was lean. It was bad. I wouldn't park anything in there other than a lawnmower. So it ended up being a little shed. And it was just a small little place. But my payments at that house were like less than $400 a month. That's insurance and all, escrowed, all that stuff. It was extremely affordable. It was the kind of house that I could make payments on that house working minimum wage. Like we would have been okay if I'd have lost my job, which ultimately was the case, right? I needed that house as a fallback plan, and it really worked out because it would be a very long time before I made $36,000 again. So we bought a little tiny house. We moved in, and that was kind of it. Until October of that year, the biggest change of my life was becoming a father. So at 25 years old, we had my first daughter, Roland, who was born in October, and she changed everything. I was. I've told this story many times, but I was not ready to be a father at 25 years old. I was not excited about being a father at 25 years old. I was jaded by the way my relationship had gone over the last year. I was not in a good space to have a child in my life, and though she has, though ultimately it's all worked out, right? Like my kids are fantastic, and I love spending time with them, and I think they love spending time with me, and we have really good working relationships, and ultimately it's all been fantastic. That year was really rough for everybody, you know. Um, Good news about that is, though, I gave up smoking. The day she was born was the last time I smoked. It was. I grew up in a smoking household. My mom smoked. My aunt smoked. My aunt quit. My mom, I can remember vividly so many times. My mom's, we had a, her house had a little, well, it had a little tiny kitchen that had a wall that was dividing the kitchen and the living room. And they tore that down and turned that into a little, bar, like a, like a half wall. And I can remember that the phone always sat there, and that's where my mom liked to smoke for some reason. And I can remember seeing her standing there, lighting a cigarette, and saying, "Do as I say, not as I do." And I decided I was never going to live my life that way. I was never going to say that to my kids. I was never going to put my kids in a position to see me doing something that I did not endorse. And so the day she was born is the day I quit smoking. Like, just done. I don't want to put her through that. So that was a very positive change. I had been smoking at that point. Let's see, I was 25. I think I started smoking when I was about 13 or 14. I definitely had cigarettes earlier than that in life, like 12, maybe even younger than that. I ran with a kind of a rough crowd when I was at my grandfather's house, and so we smoked a good bit. But I honestly started smoking in earnest around probably 14, maybe 15. So at least a decade I had been smoking. Um, and I gave it up. Just cold turkey. Done. Don't need this anymore. Think to say that I quit smoking, I did. I mean, I think I had a few more over the year. Every now and then, when I would be hanging out with family friends and having some drinks, I would have a cigarette with somebody. But it was like it was. I did not enjoy that. Right. So, house, daughter, smoking. Those were the biggest events for all of 2004. I was still employed as a parts department manager, but it was rough. I don't know if I mentioned this earlier. The service manager ended up kind of being over top of me. He kind of turned into the overboss of all the service departments. So there was service, there was parts, and there we had a body shop. And so he kind of oversaw all of us. He was kind of given a service manager's, I don't know, whatever. And he did not want me in my position. He adamantly fought against me having my job as a parts manager, and he sabotaged me constantly. He tried to get me fired constantly. He made my life a living hell. And so I had that to deal with in addition to everything else that was going on in my world. So it was a very rough year, but it was, there was bright spots. As with anything, looking back this far, and I can see a whole bunch of pain and suffering from the time I was a teenager to now, but there's so many bright spots that I forget. Like, oh yeah, there was this and there was that. It's so easy to say that my life has been rough and I've had to fight through all of these things, which is true. But that doesn't mean that was like my entire identity is I fight for, perseverance or whatever, because that's not reality. Like, there's been a lot of good things. Um, Daughter born in October. The roughest part of that was she had severe colic, which is basically gassy baby. We don't really know. At that time, there was no we just didn't know. But for us, it meant that she woke up every 45 minutes to say 75 minutes, hour and 15 minutes. Somewhere between there, she woke up every, just say hour, screaming as if being murdered. And that went on for 2 years. Over 2 years, like 2.5 years. Never once slept through the night in 2.5 years. Never once slept for more than an hour. That's not, maybe she took a nap for 2 hours or whatever, but it was on the hour, 45 minutes to 75 minutes, just screaming her head off. It was absolutely horrific. And at that time, nope, that was later. Yeah, that's where we were. At the end of 2003, I was still making pretty good money. We had good times financially. This is 2004. I'm sorry. The end of 2004, I was still making good money. The NHL lockout was that year. And I was a very big hockey fan, and I did not want to go without hockey for a year. So I purchased partial season tickets to see the Wheeling Nailers. So they're a semi-professional, well, not semi, they're professional. They're a professional team in Wheeling, West Virginia, which is where my now wife is from. And we would drive up there once a month or so to see a hockey game, and that I miss a lot. It was some of the best hockey I've ever seen, and I really, really enjoyed that time. So, yeah, that was my 2004. Maybe I'll talk a little bit about my 2005 tomorrow, but there's other stuff I'd rather talk about, like tools I got for Christmas and whatever. So, I don't think I'm going to continue to do these every year because I don't think I have interesting things to say about the next 17 years. What'd you do in 2004? Anything exciting happen in your life? Let me know in the comments. Thank you for being here as always. Thank you for liking, commenting, subscribing, being amazing friends and wonderful people. I really appreciate you. And I'll see you again tomorrow. Today's word you should know to sound smart is temper. It is a verb meaning to moderate or lessen the impact of. Yet I shall temper so justice with mercy. John Milton, an English poet. Temper, T-E-M-P-E-R. Yeah. Tempering steel would be the thing I think of most when I think, or tempered glass, but also people with a bad temper. I have quite a history with those.